Sometimes you're gonna get clients that give you a design that they want, and they're not gonna give you that much to work with. In some cases, you won't even get like artwork. You'll just get like an idea. I want my logo to look like this, or I want this design to look like this, and you got to come up with something. I encourage you guys to charge for your artwork, charge for your graphic designing, charge for digitizing, charge for every single part of the bringing that person's design into fruition, because it takes time to do each step. A large misconception, I think people that don't do this stuff and just want something made think that you just go in this software, press a few buttons, and boom, it gives you an embroidery file. They don't know that first you need a design, right? First you get the idea. You got to bring the idea into life in digitizing software, and then after you bring that design to life in graphic designing software, you have to bring that graphic into a digitizing software and digitize. Both processes are separate, and both of them take time. So make sure you guys are charging for graphic design. All right. If you are not getting work because the extra cost is deterring your clients, then sometimes you can kind of say, okay, I'm going to waive the graphic design fee, or I'm going to waive the digitizing fee, or I'm only going to charge you this much for digitizing and this much for graphic design because I want to work with you. You know what I mean? So word it differently so that you can still get the income from those specific clients that might not have the budget to spend on all the extra costs. They just want something on a hat, because what's going to happen is, or a hat or a shirt, because what's going to happen is, if you waive the fee and you digitize that thing for them, now you have that actual asset, which is the digitizing. So if they want another one, they're going to come to you to get it. Or in some cases, they might say, hey, could you give me that file? And they didn't pay for the file. So now you say, okay, I'll give you the file, but this is how much it costs, right? So you put a cost to that file. I'd say like $60 or $100 for your file, so you can take your business elsewhere. Because that's what they're going to do. They're going to take their graphic elsewhere, right? So, hey, can you give me that file, that graphic file that you made for me? Well, I waived a fee, so yeah, I can give it to you, but this is how much it's going to cost. Or can you give me that .dst, that embroidery file, so I can give it to you, but it's going to cost X, Y, and Z. So in this case, this is what the client gave me right here, all right? And I put it in my digitizing software. And guys, just let me just be clear. Chroma Lux is my choice when I digitize, right? Chroma Lux is my first choice because it's user friendly and it's easy to use, right? It's user friendly, easy. It's kind of redundant, but I do, because of the line of work that I do and the variety of people that I deal with, I try to stay proficient in all the graphic design softwares, minus PE Design. I stopped using PE Design quite some time ago, and mostly I use Chroma Lux, but I float back and forth between Chroma Lux and Wilcomb Hatch. The reason why I use Wilcomb Hatch is because most digitizers and outside of the country and stuff like that, they use Wilcomb Hatch. I will say that. But for me, Chroma Lux is simpler to operate. I can get it to do everything that I need, and I love Chroma Lux. But in this case, I use Wilcomb Hatch to design this. So this is what I came out with after I digitized it. After I digitized the image, looks pretty close, I think. All right, I think it looks pretty close. One of the things about digitizing is you never know how your design is going to come out until you actually put it in that embroidery machine and start to embroider that design. It's really good, and you can tell when you're starting to get proficient in digitizing when you're able to digitize something, put it on the machine, and it embroiders perfectly the first time. That's starting to happen to me more and more and more, and it doesn't happen overnight. It comes with some experience, and it's going to take you guys some time to get there, but if you keep on digitizing, learn how your software operates, it will happen, because you'll know what settings to put and what adjustments to make in digitizing software, and how the machine that you're using is going to react to it. All right, so it just takes time and patience. All right, so let's go ahead and take this design onto our embroidery machine, and we're going to do this design, and the text is going to be 3D puff. All right, so let's do it. Now I have everything that I need for my 3D puff hat design right here, which is my red foam as well as my black foam. I'm going to use this to create that puff effect. Just 2 pieces of foam right here. That's all I need. Now, if you don't know how to hoop a hat properly, you really need to check out my how to hoop a hat tutorial that I made quite some time ago. If I need to make another one, I can, but I don't really feel like I need to make another one. I don't feel like it's necessary. I've already programmed my colors on here. I'm just putting it to needle number 1, my machine to needle number 1, and then we are going to go ahead and put the design in the right place that we want it to fall in. All right, there we go. Center that design right here. Got that needle right in the center of the hat. Once I have it right to where I want it, I'm just going to go ahead and lock my design and go ahead and trace my design to see where it's going to fall. All right, there we go. That's going to be the top, and it's going to come down as far as right there. I'm going to bring it down a little bit lower. All right, so let me just readjust it, bring it down a little lower, and trace again. That's going to be the top right there, and it's going to come down on the sides that low. All right, and I think that's sufficient. All right, so yeah, we're going to try it, even though that got a little tangled up. We're going to try it, and let's see what happens. All right, so the first part of this design is just the stitching of the background of the design surrounded by the border and the other border, and then it's going to get to the puff. On the design, in my software, on the thread colors, I already programmed a stop so it could stop right before I get to the part where I need to apply my puff. Then I applied another stop to the point where I need to apply my different color puff. So we got that programmed already. I'm just going to hit start on the machine. Just press start. So far so good, guys. Everything is going according to plan, just like I expected. The hard part isn't going to be until it gets the puff design. As long as I digitize it properly, it should embroider out properly. The hard part is going to be not losing registration when it does the trace outline. I kind of made the borders fairly thick, not too thick, just fairly thick, just thick enough so that it shouldn't lose registration. So there's always a possibility, but I did hoop my hat properly. Everything is good to go, and I'm confident that this design should embroider out good. Another difficult part of this design is going to be the 3D puff part, you know, because 3D puff is always kind of like finicky a little bit. You have to make sure you have the right amount of density in that thread where you want where you're going to put the foam underlaying underneath. And a lot of people say make sure you have your digitizer digitized for 3D puff, and all that means is really all that means is your digitizer is going to remove the underlay, right? Remove the underlay of the specific part of the design that's going to be the puff part, and he's going to increase the density of the satin stitch so it can cover up the foam, and it can cover up the foam completely to the point where, you know, the puff part looks good. So far that underlay is embroidering really well. The hat looks to be remaining very, very stable. So I'm confident that my my outer perimeter, my borders are gonna come out good. So yeah, it's looking really good so far, guys. I'm excited about this. Here's a tip, guys. In your digitizing, make sure that when you digitize, you do it in such a way that it starts on, say for example, this long line right here. Make sure you do it in a way that it starts all the way on one side and goes all the way through to the other side. In order to do that, you have to make sure your angle line is going in the opposite direction from your start and stop point. All right, there's a point where you tell the embroidery needle where to start, and there's a point where you tell it to stop. Your angle line, the direction of the stitches, has to be opposite of the start-stop point. All right, So now it's going to start with the gray border. All right, that's all the way on needle number 15 is my gray. All right, so. All right, now, let me move the camera a little bit, guys. Now we're gonna switch from gray to red. Now we're gonna do a red border outside of the gray border. All right, getting a little bit intricate now. A little bit fancy. I'm gonna give you guys just a little bit of continuous action. I don't want to make this video too long with useless stuff, but I know some people just enjoy seeing the machine go. So I'm just going to give you guys a little bit of the machine continuously going, embroidering this red border right here, as you guys can see. All right. I did the gray outline. Now it's doing the red outline, and very pleased with this. It looks very good. It looks very good. I'm pleased with it. Alright, if you guys like that. Okay, darken up that ISO a little bit so you guys can see that a little bit better. Alright, right over that seam. I showed you guys in the 3 things Ricoma doesn't tell you video how to lower your needles so you won't get needle breaks when you're doing these heavily structured hats. Check that video out if you did not check it out already. Alright, so now after this is going to pause so that I can add my black 3D puff on top of the design. Right after this, it's going to pause now. Alright, I added a pause right here, so now it's going to stop. Alright, and then next it's going to tell me to add my puff. Well, it's not telling me, but it's time for me to add my puff. So now is the 3D puff part. Bunch of ways you can do this. You could just hold it here, press start, and just hold it down for the first few stitches. The other way to do it is to get some, not safety pins, but, you know, sewing pins, and just stick the pin in one side of the hat, stick the pin in another side of the hat, and get your hands out of the way, which is kind of like what I recommend, you know. Let me get this pin in here in the hat, and all right, there we go. Now it's down. Now all I gotta do is press start, and the pins that I put on both sides, well, sometimes they don't. This one clearly popped up. All right, so let me try to get that in there. 1 second. Boom. All right. I got it in and out that side. All right, so now I'm just gonna press start on the machine, and it's gonna start back up again. So let's go. Now I made this part right here very dense, so I'm not sure how it's gonna come out. We'll see if it does what it's supposed to do and if it acts right. So far it looks good. I'm embroidering that 3D puff. Looking good so far. All right. Just to give you guys a little taste of 3D puff action and how the machine does what it does. Let you guys see what it's doing right now. At the end of my little 3D puff designs, I put like what I call butt caps. So it helps when I pull off this black, it helps the 3D puff like come apart. You guys will see at the end of each thing. At the end of the tip of each thing right here, it goes and it's gonna put down a little cap after it's done embroidering. All right, you guys will see what I'm talking about. Now it's gonna go to the other side and embroider that 3D puff R. Doing exactly what I told it to do in digitizing software, guys. And this is running very smooth. I'm very pleased with how it's coming out. Right there, and the end of that R. The leg of that R right there. Leg of the other R. Oh, I'll put 2 on this one. Okay. All right, leg of the other R right here. Boom. All right. And then it's gonna pause. Then I'm gonna rip it off. I'm gonna show you guys how I rip this off. You just rip it right off. Watch, see? Oh yeah, right in the middle. All right. Now it stops. I added a pause right there. Now it's time to rip off the puff. Take off this pin, take that pin off, and I'm just gonna take this and just rip this off, just like that. Boom. All right, got some thread, a little tangle right there, so I'm gonna take my scissors and I'm just gonna cut this black thread right here. Take that off. Looking good so far. Now we're just gonna put the red foam down for this one part, and in this case, I'm just gonna hold it. I'm just gonna hold it in place and press start on the machine. Went to the red. I should have used the edge of this, but it's okay. Now after the first couple stitches, I can let it go. All right. We're gonna take this off and check out what we got. I already see a little flaw in my digitizing right here. Like I said, it's the first time I embroidered this out, but I think the hat is gonna be good enough. It's gonna be a lot of cleanup with the threads right here. Let me show you guys what I'm talking about. You guys see right here the separation. What the machine did was, and this was from digitizing. It started here, it went down, and then it finished it. But it didn't meet, right? It didn't meet, and that caused a little gap. So I'm gonna actually put it back in the machine and see if I can correct that right now before I move too much stuff. But that is from digitizing. I should have made it digitized so it embroiders all the way through, but I missed that one part. It started embroidering, it did a run stitch down, then it started embroidering up to meet this part, and most times when it does that, it leaves a gap. And that's what made that, all right? That's why I said it's important to make sure your design starts and stops at opposite points and your angle line is different, because if your angle line is not different from where it starts and stops, it's gonna start embroidering, go to the other part, then go to try to meet, and it's always, most cases, it creates a gap, all right? So let me try to put that back in the machine and see if it'll embroider over top of this part right here. All right, guys, so I put that back in the machine, and it kind of stitched over it a little bit, kind of cleaned that up nicely. So I'm just gonna rip off this part right here, and we're gonna clean up our puff, get rid of all our trims, and this came out pretty good, just like I wanted it to come out. So I'm just gonna trim these little threads right here, and this is what the client wanted. It looks good to me. I'm gonna trim it up. I'm gonna hit it off with some fire. Lighter, and then we should be good to go. This is what we got so far. Now we're gonna hit it off with a little bit of heat. Now what the heat does is, for this polyester thread, it just kind of melts the loose thread and kind of gets the thread of the puff to get sucked in a little bit. So it yeah, but you got to pass it over it real fast and not stay in one spot. So I'm just gonna pass over it. Burns all those loose threads. Gets that design looking nice and tight. Nice, 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 all right? Opposite way, right here. Yeah. Getting all those loose threads out of the way. Tighten everything up. And there we go, got our 3D puff hat. Looking good. All right. There we go, guys. I think it came out great. You saw what the client gave me, and this is what I got for him. All right. Sometimes you're not given much to work with, and you just got to work with what you got. All right. And this is a prime example of working with what I got, and I think I pulled it off. All right, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. My machine embroidered this out so smoothly. I do think that I could have went a little bit thicker, with a little bit more density in the puff part. But overall, man, this design looks good. The puff feels good, and it's clean, guys. It's clean. It's clean. All right. Leave your comments down below. Appreciate you guys so much for watching. And yeah, 3D puff. There we go.
Turn up that, crank it up. Why listen to the rest when you're rocking with the best, baby?